All right, what is going on, guys? Today's guest is my good friend Chris Holmes, right? Holmes, how you say it?
Holmes, like Sherlock.
Bad with last names. They're tricky sometimes. He is a drag racer, been racing at Bradenton for probably a decade. Build cars, tune cars, machine work, you name it. Ventured into all of it. Videography on cars. Kind of just deep into everything. But I'm really interested in, were you on a Navy ship tuning?
No.
Were you tuning from remotely?
No. So I started tuning and getting more into cars after the Navy, after I was at the Navy. But now that you did mention tuning while offshore, yes, I did. When I lived in Texas for a little bit and worked offshore, I did remote tune, which is kind of sketchy because we had very limited internet, and it was like satellite internet, and sometimes the clients who were paying for the internet like really looked at like each megabyte that you sent. So
you were on an oil rig, I assume, at that point?
Not an oil rig. They were survey vessels.
Okay.
So we did acoustic surveying.
So you were remote tuning Mustangs from a offshore vessel in Texas. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
And, so Navy time, remote tuning, that's awesome.
Yep. And in the med too. So it would be nighttime or it'd be early in the morning, and they'd be at the track like the previous day.
I know
just because of the time
you
difference.
Used to tune a couple of my friends' cars back in those times, and then obviously, like every racer, you escalate to a point where you need somebody on scene.
Yep.
That's really there. You need to learn your car a little better and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But that's pretty fun. I mean, remote tuning in Texas. Did you get to race out there at all, or were you kind of in the middle of nowhere?
For the year and a half, almost 2 years I was out there, I think went to the track once. It was the street scene in Texas is pretty cool. So I got to see that firsthand, and it's pretty crazy.
Did you have Sally out there?
Yeah, I did have the Mustang out there. It wasn't as crazy as it was before I got rid of it, but.
So the Mustang, in reference, is your Turbo Sally, which is a yellow Boss. Was it a Boss?
Nope, it was a California Special actually.
Oh. It looked like it has the Boss colors, or similar.
I'm wanting to say that the Boss did come in. I know the Boss came in a yellow. It was like a school bus yellow, but yeah, it was a California Special that I had to put the 5.0 badge on because in 11 and 12 when they did the California Special, they just had a stripe. They didn't put the hole or the 5.0 badge on the fender. First thing I did was rip the California Special, that little black stripe off of it. Mm-hmm. And a couple weeks went by, and everyone would ask me, is that a V6 or a V8? So I was like, damn. So I went and got the little 5.0 emblem and stuck it on the side.
Yeah, it always kind of did have that like V6 almost look to it. I don't know if it's something with the hood or the bumpers that they came with that kind of made it, because we're talking about, what, S197?
Yeah. So
there's so many different body styles that they came in.
I think what lends to that is it comes with the little side scoop. So it looks like something somebody would put on a V6, right? Mm-hmm. Like you go to AutoZone and grab the stick-on stuff.
Yeah.
It comes with that on the side, like the fake brake ducts in the rear. So I think that may lend itself.
Yeah, and you've been racing that car at Bradenton BMP forever also. I feel like I saw a photo of it in like 2012.
Yeah.
At Bradenton.
I think it may have been early or late 2011 when I got out of the military, started my own shop, and that was the vehicle that I had. And didn't have a bunch of money or anything, so we did a direct port nitrous setup on it. And
as one does.
And yeah, so cheap to go fast,
Heck yeah, it is.
And, I think it was the NMRA Spring Break Shootout. It may have been the 2012 where I first raced it with the nitrous on it out there.
And in 2012, that car was, fairly newish on the scene, I guess.
Yeah, it was like one model year old, so.
Yeah, and
because it's a 2012, but I got it in 2011.
So pretty new car out there, beating it up, nitrous.
Yeah, that was before the Coyote scene took off. I mean, there wasn't much.
Yeah, that was super early into it. And
I mean, I remember going 10. I was like 10-2 with the direct port on it, and one of my buddy Pete Epple, he was a writer and editor for Muscle Mustangs and Fast Forwards at the time, and I remember doing like a 10-2 or something, and he saw it, and then he saw it in the pits with the hood up and saw the, you know, the crazy, because we did it on top of the stock manifold, not like the nice stuff that Nitrous Express and stuff does now. So yeah, it had lines running everywhere, and he freaked out. He was like, "We got to get this thing in the magazine. We got to get this thing in the magazine." And I forget his name right now, but he was at the head of the magazine at the time. The little short guy. He's really good at driving. They always have him in. I forget his name, but he was like, they were all into it, and for something running 10-2.
Yeah, you were out there with a brand new car that there probably wasn't many of them out there. NMCA is mostly just like, or NMRA, whatever, one of those two. It's just like a bunch of old boomer Mustang guys.
Yeah.
Bracket racing.
The NM, that's a whole nother topic about the NMRA, or the NMRA and how they don't want to pay for payouts and stuff like that.
Well, they moved from Bradenton this year now to OSW, so now the Mustang race at Bradenton is going to be mod nats.
Oh yeah.
So,
which is good. 100 times better than anything the NMRA can ever think about putting on.
Yeah, it's very different style of event for sure.
One is made to bring in money. One is made for the racer.
Yep. So they're moving from South Georgia Motorsports Park to Bradenton. That'll be an awesome event. Justin Young puts that on. He does a really good job with that and pays out really well to a lot of cars. So that'll be cool. Your car, though, you progressed that thing into what, mid-eights?
It ran bottom sevens.
Oh, bottom
I think
sevens.
The last time it ran quarter mile, actually, was at the very first Christmas tree race. Garrett's Christmas tree race, or Cletus's Christmas tree race. It was the last time it ran quarter mile, and it was geared for eighth mile.
Yeah, because you no-time raced it a little bit.
Yeah, I did my best to no-time race. So everything is
Twin turbo big blocks out there.
Yeah, you'd be amazed at what you can do on a budget if you can do the work yourself. So yeah, that car evolved into a no-time car kind of by accident. It eventually got a Turbo 400 in it, and still not I still drove it back and forth from Sarasota down here to Northport. So at a time I was doing 70 miles a day on it with a Turbo 400 and a built motor, sleeved motor, a turbo kit, and eventually the direct drum exploded at the top end of the track, took out all underneath the dash, and as I was pulling the dash out and everything, I was like, you know what, let's gut it. Let's go all out.
Wait, so we kind of just breezed over. You actually had your trans come through
the tunnel,
the interior of the car.
Yes.
That sounds really exciting.
At the time,
at what, 1,200 feet, 1,300 feet?
I just shut down, so it was at the top end of the track.
Oh, so it was on decel, are you saying? Because,
I don't know.
Trans kind of do come apart at decel.
I threw the chute. It could have been on decel. I don't know exactly when it happened. I didn't realize it happened at the time. So the car was still idling. I shut it down, threw the chute, shut it down, coasted around, and I'm picking up the chute. I'm pulling in the chute real quick, and I'm noticing there's a bunch of oil on it, and I see a sheen on the back of the car. It's at night, and I was like, what the? So I opened the passenger door, and I see some plastic and stuff, and I look, and there's a chunk of the direct drum. First thing I did was I checked my legs. I was like, did something hit me? Did something come on the other side? And then by that time I remember it was a CRX, or it was a Del Sol, Honda Del Sol that had been in the fast lanes with me, the far side of the track.
Yeah, he was probably right behind you in the lanes, a couple cars back.
Yep, and I hear him shutting down, and then skirt, and I'm like, oh shit. So I jump on the phone and I call, I call PD at the top of the track. I'm like, hey, I just oiled down the shutdown lane. You need to stop running these cars. He's like, what? And I hear the next car coming out. I'm like, oh man. So
that's why I'm also religious about my parachute. Like, even if I'm not even going that fast, because it'll save you if you come across some oil that
yeah, if someone in front of you oil down the track, or your brakes give out or something like that.
People try to be stingy on dumping the chute because they don't want to pack it, but
if you want to be stingy, run 8th mile, because then you got plenty of shutdown.
I love 8th mile. It's so great. Everybody always gives me crap for wanting to run 8th mile.
It's easier on parts. It's cheaper on things.
You go faster if you gear your car correctly.
You don't have to worry about.
The 60 foot's the fun part.
Safety. I mean, you got to be on safety, but there's something to be said about doing 160 maybe if you're really fast. 60, 70 in the 8th versus over 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, I mean 160 in the 8th is flying. That is cooking.
Yeah, you're accelerating fast, but that's your peak mile per hour. You're shutting down. You have another 8th mile to shut down. There's 4 cylinders. Kyle at the Christmas tree race was doing 180. That's fast.
Yeah, Kyle was 180, and then he was doing that in the NSX, the same thing basically in a roll race, 180. My Camaro did that in a roll race, but I'm only going 140 in the 8th, which is nothing for 8th. It's nothing for a no-time race.
Right. That's still fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still accelerating
fast,
hard.
And then when you get driven by it, is crazy feeling.
Yeah, I remember going back to the first Christmas tree race. It was me and was it Rick in the green?
Rick Prospero.
And at that time, my car was like a 478 car. And he came by me like I hit the brakes and put in reverse. So.
And that's because the way that he had that car always was he 60-footed softly, and then he just brings the power
like
in.
A medium 8th, and then it just full on trained around me. It was
because they have no wheelbase. And your car was probably pretty heavy at the time too, right?
I got it down to, I think with me in it was like 3250.
That's pretty light for those cars.
I did about all I could as far as free weight reduction goes without buying replacement parts.
Yeah.
Lighter replacement parts.
Yeah, that's where things get really expensive and people don't realize the lightweight level. You can spend way more making your car light than like building an engine.
Yeah.
Like just by like body panels. I know on my car it's $5,000 for doors. Before they're even fitted, nothing. $5,000 for two bare doors.
Yeah, and those aren't going to fit good. You're going to have to pay someone, or like I said, if you could save a lot of money, do it yourself. But I mean, you're going to have to pay someone to fit those doors, hang them right. Like then you got to do the Lexan windows and
it escalates really quickly. That's why ship boxes are really fun. Like my SN95.
Yeah, ship boxes are fun because it's easy to do the free stuff, cut stuff out, ditch something. It's not your daily. I don't need that. I don't need that humidity. I don't need that comfort.
That goes down a real quick path of I don't need any of this.
Yeah,
Once you start saying I don't need that, I don't need this, it gets going pretty quickly.
That's your free. The weight
low-hanging
reduction.
fruit, as Jeremy calls it.
Yep.
Jeremy from Auto would call it the low-hanging fruit. So now we're at your shop, and if anybody's watching, there's a car on the lift being fabricated.
Yep.
And is that what your plan is to do here? Build cars? You
yeah.
have machine work. You have a bunch of cars here. Another Shelby in front of us. That's
a ship box. That's certified ship box.
Yeah, in front of us. That's a weird one. I don't really even know anything about those.
That's an '86 Shelby Charger. It's basically a 1986 Shelby or a Dodge Charger. The K car, it's actually an L body, and it's a front wheel drive, came with a 2.2 turbo, and put some Shelby stickers on it, and it was pretty cool back in the day.
It looks very Fox body.
It's because it's squarish.
Hatch-like.
Yeah, it's a square kind of hatch.
Like if you kind of did it upright, I feel like you could definitely fool some people at the track.
If you it'd be cool if you link to one of these videos. I'll send it to you, but put it in like the comments or something.
Yeah, we'll put your channel down below.
They no, and not even my channel, but review of this, where Car and Driver did the review of this, is comical because back in the day it was it was a sports car, and it ran well, and they like bragged on it. They, doing the cones and the figure eight and stuff like that. They were really impressed with it, and you watch it today, and it's like, what? Like, you take a stock little Accord and do that,
It seems like something Shelby was almost forced to build. Like, they were like, hey, you got to put your name on this.
Well, in the 80s, he tried to work with Ford, and they didn't want to. So he went to Dodge. Dodge was like, hey, come over to us. And he did. So this isn't a real Shelby. This is a Dodge-built Shelby. He did a lot of the famous ones, the GLH, the Goes Like Hell. Mm-hmm. Those are the Chargers, the little turd box Omnis, the Shadow, and he did a Lancer that he actually bought and took to his Las Vegas plant and did. Those are numbered Shelbys. And then, of course, just like Dodge, or just like Ford does now, they use his name.
They use the name, yeah.
For a special edition.
They changed a couple things, ported an intake or something stupid, and we're like, listen, it's a Shelby.
Yep, a little firmer shocks on this one. A lot of them had a better intercooled and like forged internals and stuff like that. More boost, like a different calibration.
They're definitely cool. I mean, they're just like, you never see something like that anymore. Maybe that's not a bad thing that they didn't last the test of time too well.
I like the body of it, but the power plant, the powertrain was not up to the task. It was a 2.2. I mean, they make rods and stuff, but like, that's why it's getting a K-swap.
Yes, so K-swap. K-swap in the Shelby.
Yeah, all-wheel drive. So
it's also it's a weird. It'll be a Honda, Shelby, Dodge, like
I don't know what
Honda,
to call
Chevy,
it.
Shelby,
I've been calling it the Red
Chrysler.
Rocket, but it hasn't even moved under its own power in a couple months. So
well, it wasn't probably that exciting under its own power, anyways. So it's fine.
it made turbo noises, so it was exciting.
You might as well go drive your 5.0 truck. It's probably faster and can handle better.
Yeah. The F-150 is faster. The stock F-150 is definitely faster than this thing was.
Yeah. And you do have a single cab, 5-liter, short bed, which is like.
That's stock.
Yeah, those have risen in value a little bit recently.
Yep.
Everybody wants that now.
Yeah, I get emails all the time from what is it, like Carvana, and the other one that, I mean, they're offering me more than what I owe on it, but you can't go out and replace it. So it's like, I mean, if I had two, yes, I would trade one in.
Yeah.
But
So what else is going on in the shop then? I see
Yeah,
CNC machines. I see
so we do.
a Fox body. So you can go.
So that is Parker's car. That's Parker Whitlock. He's a good friend of mine, business partner. The car that we were actually building up there is at his shop right now, finishing up. And but yeah, we do race car stuff.
Chassis work.
Yeah, chassis work, one-off CNC stuff for said builds, and then some job shop stuff. So
I got some list of stuff here as well. Will the yellow Mustang make a return?
yes, but not under my ownership.
Got rid of her?
Got rid of her. It's down south, and it is getting a Barra put in it.
Oh.
So it's going to have a cool life. I was okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, you ran its course.
Yeah. When I sold it, I didn't need to sell it. It's always nice to have a little cash in the pocket when you're just starting out building your business and stuff. So it was like I was put at ease where it went.
I saw it for sale, and I honestly was thinking about it because I know the car and I've seen it work, and those chassis work so freaking well.
It was a basic. Everyone that came up to it, and if you looked under it, like, I mean, it still had stock axles, and had a true track. Like, I mean, the rear was welded and it was braced a little bit, but it was a basic setup.
Do you think that that's one of the better chassis that you can start with? Because it's hard to argue when you get a 5-liter Coyote.
Yeah. They're a little on the heavy side, but they're stiff. So it's like everyone, I mean, you can say like, hey, Fox body, throw a Coyote in it. Okay, well, you're going to have the money of, doing the conversion, and there's just so many stock things that I did with that car that ran well. It partially contributed to the Coyote platform. Stock heads, stock valves, they had valve springs in it, but
Kind of killed the 4-valve.
Yeah,
Kind of killed the 2-valve, the 4-valve, the 3-valve, all that stuff once the Coyote came out.
yeah. You can just do so much stock.
Yeah, and they revved so high. They do rev so high.
Yep.
When we tuned my 240, speaking of RPM,
Oh, yeah.
so you tuned my 240 on Ignite, and it was a brutal night of that car being a real shitbox.
Yeah, I remember it being a pain in the butt for some reason. I don't remember why, just because I tuned so many on that.
It had a throttle body that was
Oh, yeah.
way
okay.
too big for a 5.7, and then it was losing. It was leaking all of its fluids.
Oh, yeah, it kept leaking fluid.
Yeah, kept leaking fluid and losing the belt.
Yep.
But we made like 500 horsepower, revving it to like 8,400 RPM.
Yeah.
Because we were just being reckless.
Yeah, that was. I remember you pull it off the trailer and then you lost the exhaust on it.
Yep.
So you had to do like emergency repair exhaust on it.
Yeah, drift cars suck. I'll say it.
I was
Pain
gonna.
in the ass.
The yellow car was gonna be a drift car at once. I still have the full angle kit for the front of it that never got put on it.
Solid axle drift car.
Yep.
That would be fun. A burnout car would be not bad either. There's actually some money to win now in burnout stuff. I know Parker's done a couple.
Yep.
I don't know if he'll go back.
I don't think he's allowed to go back.
Oh,
I don't think like his wife will allow him to go back.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. You would talk about that more than me because you know Parker better.
Yeah, he got hurt at one of the Cletus and
He
cars.
hurt himself.
Yeah, yeah. It was nothing. I mean, it was totally self. I mean, it sounds bad saying it, but you know, just the unfortunate events happened, and you know, radiator exploded, and he got burnt.
Yeah, but he's good now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
He's fine. And then, yeah, you guys have built some engines here too, right?
a couple here. Mainly, he still does that for his at his day job. He does. Yeah,
Okay.
he is the engine builder. I can assemble them and stuff like that, but I'll always like second ask him like, hey, am I doing this right? Are we good?
Yeah, I don't trust myself touching that stuff.
He's the engine builder.
It seems almost it's too far in for me to trust myself, I guess you'd say. Like, there's too many things that need to come out if you did something wrong.
But yeah, you're
before
totally
you find
capable
out
of doing
if
it.
you do it wrong.
You're totally capable of doing it, but it's kind of like it's kind of like the tuning world where it's like, hey, you forgot that one checkbox buried deep down in this menu, and if you don't know it, like you just caused yourself a whole bunch of headache. So like, you know, if there's like a little trick or a little, you know, tribal knowledge that you didn't know while assembling this engine, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the tuning world is a whole nother one. And have you looked into doing that a lot more?
No, I don't do any of the OEM stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Just because I don't do enough of it to stay relevant in it, and it's a lot of tribal knowledge. And unless you have a platform that you can go out and test stuff on, you're testing on other people's stuff. And I rather stick to race cars, and doing a bunch of airboats, and just oddball stuff. Like I'll still do the OEM stuff. I still have all the stuff to do it, but yeah.
The airboat world is one that people will not comprehend if they're not in Florida. The airboat world goes insanely deep, and those guys build more expensive airboats than people build race cars.
Yep. It's a boat, so there's money involved.
A lot.
It's a good time though. I mean, it's kind of sketchy going 80 miles an hour in water about like this deep, you know, skinny water.
Yeah, and they take flight. But building those cars, building those engines and the power that they put out. So what kind of stuff have you done in the airboats?
Twin turbo airboat. A buddy of mine, Lee's, he's got a twin turbo Coyote, and I'm like 14, I think, pounds. It's probably making what a car would make, like 900-ish or so. But they're actually kind of easy. They're easy to tune because you don't need a dyno. They are their own dyno.
You just strap it on and hope that.
Yep.
I've seen them tuned on dry land before, and that's a little crazy because like they're pushing the car forward
Yep.
that they're hooked to.
Well, if you get behind a big enough truck, and you really don't even need. It's the perfect, because that's all it's doing. So you, at wide open throttle, you can do the power, because you know, you can play with cam timing, play with some spark, play with some fuel, see if it makes more RPM. If it makes more power, it's gonna spin more RPM. So you can do it like that, and
they just mess with the fan pitch basically to get some more. It's like the fan blades are almost like a converter at that point.
yeah. So
where you can get
they
more
they
out
try
of
to
it.
they try to get an optimal RPM for the engine and the gearbox and blade. So, you know, on a Coyote, if you're making, you know, 800 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, that might be the sweet spot you want to stay in. So you might have to give it less pitch or more pitch to enable the engine at that power level to get to that RPM, basically.
Yeah, so
Just
you're
like a
almost-
converter. So it's like, hey, I want to stall at this RPM. Well, you either need to make more power, or you need less of a stall to try to push through it.
Yeah, that's a fun science in itself, trying to figure out where you want that to be in RPM range, and because you're wide open throttle at a certain RPM for a pretty significant amount of time.
Yeah,
It'd be
like,
hard on things.
If they're hauling butt across the pond or something like that, they'll be at wide open throttle. But it's just like a race car. You're not at wide open throttle all the time.
I try to be.
Or, okay, drift cars, that's the only exception, basically, or a burnout car.
Yeah, drift cars are pretty bad about that for sure. I try to be as wide open throttle, but you know, rarely you gotta pedal it. But it's like
They're not on the limiter, though.
5 to 8 seconds, depending on how much I run it out.
Drift cars are on the limiter all the time.
Yeah, I've actually spent more time sometimes on the trans brake than I actually spend making the pass, unfortunately. Holding
Yeah.
the button.
If you're on it for 7 seconds, if it's got a courtesy tree or whatever is enabled,
Somebody flickers the bulbs a little bit.
or they rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I've been burned down by myself almost too many times just doing that.
I mean, ideally, you should be able to sit on your trans brake for 10 seconds and not murder itself, but still, it hurts you when you're doing it.
The physical pain, and it feels like a minute.
It seems like an eternity when you're like, you know, you're just dreading looking at the data logs when the temperature is just like steadily climbing, or this is gonna smell so burnt afterwards.
I don't look. I hope that it didn't catch the data log. I'm just like, I hope I don't have to send this one off to the tuner.
And you know, it's like, you're okay, if I lift, he's gonna bump in, I'm gonna have to spool again. It's
Yep. And I'm such an idiot because my car spools so quickly, but I'm always like more eager to go than I should be.
just don't be the nice guy.
That's
Always come in last.
that's my problem.
I think the last time, I didn't really get burned down, but the last time I was on the chip for a while, and the other guy in the lane had some excuse, you know, he couldn't rev up or something like that. I was like, never again. I'm always going to go in last. So
the worst is when the people come out there and they're like, "Oh, it's my first time. I'm gonna test the trans brake and the bump box, try
Yeah,
to get
hey.
into the beams," and it's like,
you don't want to do that out there, because then you
Yeah.
end up either lurch too far forward, or you don't go far for, you know, you don't bump enough in. So
I've recently come to love the supercharger because the no bump, and like
Yep.
you just immediately put your foot down and it's on the two-step.
Yep.
And my Mustang is pretty fun because it launches at 5,000 RPM. It feels pretty spicy, even though it's a slow 60 foot. It just, like that instant, like the no prep Kings cars that are like supercharged, and
Yeah.
they're just like right to the chip and all of it.
it's not a stick car, is it?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Power
I figured.
glide. Yeah, stick shift racing is a different animal that I don't want to go down.
Yeah. I'm
3 years ago, it was cool. Now it's like big money, slipper clutch,
yeah.
messing with the clutch every round, and that's everyone.
I say that because it's going to end up being a stick shift car. So I got to learn the whole, you know,
Yep.
roll in with the brake, and, you know, I've never had to deal with that. So
There's not much you can do. Like the Honda stick shift world is so different though than like the T56.
yeah.
Like Coyote guys that stick shift race, where they're pulling it out in between rounds and servicing the clutch,
changing grams.
Yeah, and that's all of them. That's Grannis, that's Tick, Cletus, like they're all doing that same procedure.
Yeah, in order to get those things to 60 foot, like it has to be dialed.
So much variable in those things. It's crazy. I don't have the patience for it. The Honda stick shift world seems a lot different. You kind of just, you're not pulling your clutch out as much, ideally. And that'll be cool to race that in the Honda world to, like, I guess, sport
compact?
Yeah, sport compact race it.
I don't know. I'm going to see how light I can get it and see what pans out with it. Because, I mean, if it's fast enough, I mean, the Hondas make enough power and trap a good enough mile an hour to be really fast, but they leave like a herd of turtles.
Yeah.
It's like the new GT500s. They leave so slow.
Those poor GT500s.
So we're going to try to see if we can't, I don't know, get like a slipper clutch for it or something, and I don't know.
Yeah, see if you can get it to leave. Put 200 pounds of weight plate on the nose like they always do.
Yeah.
They put a
being all-wheel drive,
inch-thick piece of plating.
Yeah.
And then, all-wheel drive. Will you use the subframes?
Out of the CRV?
Yeah. Front and rear subframe?
I think. The plan is to kind of graft it onto this and then cut out and then remake get it in, get it working, get it situated, aligned, and then we can make custom parts and trailing arms and stuff later.
You might have to tub the back of it too. I guess the back won't be a big tire.
It's the Charger is a few inches shorter wheelbase, but the width is right at the same for it. So.
Oh, so it'll be pretty similar to, like, you're talking Honda Civic or CRV?
The CRV.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if you're going off like Civic specs.
Nope. I'm gonna butcher up that CRV out there and make it work.
See if you can make that thing an all-wheel drive. Maybe.
Oh, it's going to be an all-wheel drive.
I was gonna say you could take it to World Cup, but you do the same thing as me, I guess, at that point, where if you're an import and domestic together, race.
I don't know what it would. I'm sure there's more oddball swaps out there than a K swap into a Dodge.
I mean, there definitely is, but what I run into at World Cup is I can't have an import engine in a domestic body.
Really?
It's
There's no class that
import versus domestics. So that's what you end up into, unfortunately. Like if you do a 2J in a Fox body.
Yeah.
You can't race there.
What if you do like a 2J in a new S550 that's like right-hand drive, made in Australia?
Listen, my door says made in Canada when you open the door. There was an import tax paid on it.
Yeah. No, you're right. Why can't you?
I think if they let me, though, then everybody with an LS becomes questionable.
Yeah, because it did come with an LS.
Yeah, we're in a gray area at that point. But I don't want to protest too much, I guess.
At that point, I feel like it's just the name of the event, and they should create some classes to let some stuff race.
Yeah, that would be ideal. So let's go through here. I guess we should talk about your time in the Navy. You said you were a medic.
No.
Medic?
Nope. I was a sonarman.
Oh, I thought you said medic.
Nope.
Oh, sonar.
Yeah.
Did you spend any time, like, underwater?
Yeah.
Oh, that
On
sounds...
subs? Yeah. Yeah, that's what they do. They go underwater.
I know. I didn't know if you could do it on the boat. That sounds so... That is probably a lot of people's biggest fear. Being underwater in
when you get down inside those things,
capsule.
Yeah, they're not bad. If you can be on an airplane, you can be on a submarine.
I don't know. How long were you down there for, like, at periods of time?
I mean, like, when you're on mission and everything, you very rarely come up. You might come up to, like, clear the day's broadcast, which is just to stick an antenna up and say, yep, we're good, and then come back down.
We're still here.
Like 60 days, without ventilating or anything like that. But that's on mission. You're doing your job those 60 days. Like, everything starts to blur together.
Do you even, like, I don't even know, like, where to go with that. Like, do you know where does everybody that's working, like, truly know where they're even at? Like,
yeah.
You could be in some channel somewhere.
Yeah, everybody knows where you're at on board. I mean, everyone on board has like a base secret clearance, and then when you go on and off mission, they'll like read you in and out of a little bit higher clearance just in case you see something while on mission. Then they basically tell you that they can come after you, and Yeah.
Oh, so you
Federal
have-
prison and
Yeah, they start talking about all that.
Yep. So you're not allowed to talk
Yeah.
about stuff. Yep.
That's fair. I mean, we'll try to get you to go to federal prison, though. We'll ask some more questions.
Sounds fun.
Is there anything that you can say about the trips that you were taking or how it was down there on a submarine for 60 days in a submarine underwater pressurized tube of
If I was to
anxiety?
travel the seas in a besides like a big like a cruise ship where I've got awesome amenities and stuff like that, I would probably want to do it on a submarine because when the weather is rough, guess what? You just go a little deeper. It's smooth sailing.
You guys ever hit any fish?
Maybe a
Anything
whale or
that
two.
bumped? Yeah, I mean, I would imagine something kind of gets in the way.
Yeah, there's some times where it's like, what was that type thing, and but
Where I grew up on Long Island, there was a channel that they always talked about that it was so deep that the submarines could like come in and out to Manhattan without people even like having any idea because they were so deep
yeah,
under people.
you don't need to be that deep. I mean,
50 feet, you're under a boat pretty easily.
yeah,
Nobody's gonna notice you. Maybe a fish finder.
yeah. Fish finder will find you.
That's pretty crazy, man. I can't imagine that. I've talked to a couple people that did time on a submarine and wild.
It's the coolest experience. I never want to do again.
That probably adds up. Did you ever spend any time on the boats?
Surface? No.
Yeah, no
Nope.
surface, just
The first time I ever got underway, actually, off the dock on a naval vessel, I was in the Navy Reserves, and it was one of those like 30-foot little aluminum boats. It was kind of comical. I was like, this is
Yeah.
the first time I've ever been
this,
underway.
not some big,
Yeah.
not some big destroyer or something.
No, just a little tiny
little
boat.
dinky 30-foot boat and a submarine. So where did you learn to tune, and how many cars blow up trying to learn?
Mostly I'm self-taught. That comes from a necessity, because either I didn't have the money, or I tell you where it really started. It started with the turbo Dodges. Those were my first vehicles that I had. My first car was a 1984 LeBaron with a 2.2 turbo in it. And I remember cranking the wastegate arm on those, throwing in a Grand National fuel pressure regulator, because it's got the same style fuel pressure regulator, but you could get an adjustable one from a Grand National. And I started chip tuning those. You would take the chip out of it, and you'd have a reader, and the tuning software is the most rudimental. Like, there was maybe 10 tables, like a spark, a fuel, and if it was a later enough model, it had like a boost, like max table. That's where I started.
And it could probably only read so much boost because they probably had some terrible sensors.
Yeah, I think they read it like 2 bar or something, 2 bar map sensor.
So you were tweaking on those for a while.
Yep.
And
And then I got my first Mustang, and had a bad experience with someone doing work and tuning on it, and that's when I decided to spend the money and start learning.
so what were you doing with the Dodges at the time? Were you actually drag racing them? Were you street racing them? Were you
No, I
just
really wasn't
building
into
to enjoy it?
it. That's where my kind of passion for cars kind of started. It was just tinkering. My buddy had a GSX, or a GST, the Mitsubishi Eclipse. So I was always competing with him, and
Yeah, the Mitsubishi stuff was kind of the original, like, I feel like that was more of like the original tuner cars because people could actually get their hands on them.
and I couldn't afford it. And I remember, I think I got that car for free, and I remember cranking the wastegate, buying like a 3-inch downpipe for it, and straight exhaust in the rear, and I was whooping up on my buddy with his 4G63 that had like the big intercooler in the front, and yep, that was a good time. And that was in a LeBaron, a gold LeBaron.
I guess you can't really get pulled
Convertible.
over street racing a gold LeBaron. It'd be pretty tough to not get away with telling the cops you were just driving your car.
Yeah, what are you talking about? This is a LeBaron with some some white walls on it.
Like your grandma car. I see how you got it for free.
They're like 165 or something stupid skinny white walls on them.
So you started your first business. You were, what, tuning? Or you were building?
Yeah, it was just a performance shop. And one thing led to another, and I ended up closing that because it was just me, and I saved a bunch of money while I was in the Navy. Got out, and it's hard starting a business. You know, I didn't know, like, lessons learned.
Yeah.
You don't come out with a fan base or, you know, people who know who you are, who recommend you by word of mouth or anything like that. You're just like, it's almost like starting a business and sitting there and watching people drive by, hoping they show up.
Yeah, and starting a business when you're doing all the work is kind of just giving yourself a job.
Yeah.
It's not exactly.
So not only do you have to pay
glamour.
yourself, you have to pay for the business, and then like you still have your daily, you know, living and stuff to do. So
We were just talking about that the other day where, you know, owning your own business is just a 24/7 job that has a horrible boss that expects a lot from you.
You might not always be working, but in your mind you're always thinking about, okay, how can I improve this? How can we drum up business? Or you know, I assume you like, how can we get more views? You know,
Yeah.
branch down different avenues like this podcast. You know, which is I think totally awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely the goal is to talk to all car enthusiasts of any.
Dude, everyone has
Making fashion.
everybody has a story, and someone could be on the outside the most boring person, and you just start talking to them, and they have like the craziest stories that are true, or like, you know, life lessons that they might think are boring, but like,
I've talked to so many car enthusiasts and like people that have been racing for years, and I'm like, man, like this guy needs a book.
Yeah.
Like you know, a book obviously for most car guys isn't going to go anywhere because half of us can't read or don't have the time to.
yeah,
So it's like the only way to really get stories documented is through things like this. And that's the long-term goal, is to, you know, kind of make a multiple years of built-up stories from people and racers. And
yeah.
I
Find
like hearing
people
about
and force them to sit down, just have them
Yeah.
talk, because like, I mean, I do it. I find myself, you know, rambling on and going a million different directions, but it, you know, someone you don't know, or I mean, you obviously know them, but and just have them talk.
Well, that's the tough part too, is getting the right information from somebody you maybe don't know as well. Because
Yeah.
like it's easy to get, you know, my friends' stories from them.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure, like this whole conversation right here, my goal is to try to get out your good stories that I don't know.
Right.
And
So you
talking about racing at NMCA, I'm sure you've dealt with some stories out there, because any racing at any track, you're gonna have something crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have cool, crazy stories.
Kicking a Turbo 400 into your dash is
Oh yeah.
definitely something.
Yeah.
Was that car a 6R80 car when you got it?
Yeah. Stock was a 6R80.
6R80 car.
Yeah. And I sold that, and that partially funded the Turbo 400.
Did you push that at all?
Yeah, kinda. In the beginning, it had the first trans brake on the 6R80, back in probably 2014, I think. I think if I look back, I got it was the first 6R80 on that had a trans brake on it, and
Okay.
I got it out at the track, like pulling up one wheel because it didn't have a anti-roll bar or anything on it, like.
Yeah.
It was so rudimentary. I had like wires coming in from a box, and it wasn't even a push button. It was all I had at the time was an on-off button, like one of the arm switches.
Yeah.
So like I would arm it, clink,
Like a nitrous arm
floor
switch.
floor it, and then like dink, flip it off, and it would launch.
That's probably really good to cut a good tree.
Yeah, it was just like super proof of concept and stuff, but it worked. But they've taken it so far now, and using different elements and different parts of the transmission to engage.
Well, now they've been low sevens
Yeah.
in a 6R80, which is insane. I can't think of many other like OEM form transmissions that can do anywhere near that.
I think, I mean, they got input shaft and a couple billet parts in them, and
Yeah.
then the whole Lund crew does a separate where they make it. It's not a 6-speed anymore. So
Yeah. Lund with the Grey Goose has, I think, the record right now.
okay.
I think so. I know Jim had it. Jim, he
Braun.
had the 6R80 for a while.
Yeah, I know it went from Brett to Jim to Lund.
Yeah.
But there's only so much that you can. I think Brett finally decided that he wanted to go really fast, and that's what he do.
I think it's crazy to even attempt it, honestly, because I am of a simpler mind of these Turbo 400s work, these Power Class work.
Yep.
It takes a different level of crazy, in a way, to build a race car around parts like that.
Well, not only race car guys, but I guess some of the super guys are using them with adapters.
Yeah, for street car stuff.
Yeah, and having the Motec and the Haltech or whatever control
It's
the
great
6R80.
for that. Like, if you're going to go
Yeah,
roll
like a street
race,
transmission. It's
on-
awesome.
like you go take it out to like TX2K on the streets,
Yep.
that would be great. Because even the A340, which the Supras came with, are pretty good, but they're just not quite as strong.
Yeah, they're super rare too, right? I mean,
They are becoming more rare, especially compared to a Mustang transmission that came in a million vehicles.
trucks,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
And-
they're
and-
definitely more rare.
And they're pretty much identical. I think a couple of them might have like a different clutch stack. One might, have one less clutch than the other. But if you're going to rebuild it and build it, like the guts are there.
Have you been a part of any like really fast teams and other forms of like in drag racing? Because I know a lot of people they join teams and they're kind of their on-site mechanic and stuff. And I've often wanted to do that for some time and like learn from
No,
someone
but
who's
I
going
think that would be
fast.
fun though. Yeah, I'm sure I could learn a lot. Just I mean, every time I go to the track, I learn something. Like,
Yeah.
but no, never been a part of any cool teams. So
Or programs, I guess.
yeah, I don't have any cool stories from that. I mean, we are starting. Our buddy Tommy's. We're gonna be that team, and
Yeah.
if he's gonna.
What class are you guys going for?
He's no time class.
No time.
Well, I mean, we're gonna be his like crew. He should be pretty, but it's a high enough caliber of a car where you just don't go out by yourself anymore.
No.
You got to go out there with a couple guys.
Sometimes even my car, I go 780s and I'll go out there by myself and I'm like, man, like something happened on the big end, like by myself out here. Like,
I mean, you need someone to be with you there on the line. I mean, it's a lot nicer when you go with a few people
yeah, racing.
with that caliber of a car.
Yeah, racing definitely requires an army
Yep.
for that kind of stuff. Well, we can wrap it up here. We've done about 40 minutes of talking. I think we're good there. But where can they find you? Anything you want to plug? Your new business, your new venture.
Yeah, I mean, Pack Precision. That's
Billet
our
Parts.
CNC shop, and starting Billet Keys, billetkeys.com.
Like actual car keys,
Yeah, so if you have any,
JDM. And
yeah, we're gonna start with the Toyota Supra and some of the earlier Skyline and I guess like the Sylvia stuff that don't need chips in the keys, but we're gonna try to do
That
brass
makes
and titanium key blanks that you can have cut if you want to and actually use them.
yeah. Do you want to plug your YouTube channel at all?
It's been pretty inactive. It's Turbo Sally.
Turbo Sally, if you want to
was-
see the car we're talking about.
I was just commenting and telling him that like it takes so much effort to do be consistent on a YouTube channel, because I found myself just instead of grabbing the camera, I'm just doing, and I should have grabbed the camera to film. So I can only imagine how much longer it takes you to complete a project, because you know that you have to think about it and grab the camera, film, set something up, do an intro, do an outro, and it's got to take you like 5 times longer to do something. So props to you and anybody who's got a YouTube channel that regularly posts, because it's a pain in the butt, and I want to do it again. I like just sitting, even if nobody watches the videos, I like sitting down and
Yeah,
and
because you
editing,
said
but
you went to film school for a
Yeah,
time, so
yep.
you clearly have some.
I-
That's where you get into the more of the problem, though, because you have the director-ish vision of when you want to film
Yeah.
Because you're gonna want to set up different angles.
Yep.
You're gonna want to
Whereas
in a
you
different level.
and some of the other, like, Cletus, it's almost raw. And the people on the other end of the lens, they don't care. They don't
No.
care if it's raw. They don't care if it's shot on your iPhone. Me, I'm like, I need a sweet camera. I need some good audio.
Let me get a second angle in here.
And like, I tell myself, no one cares. I mean, they'll care if it looks good and sounds good, but like, no one cares. Just tell the story.
Yeah, they don't. They definitely don't pay as much attention. And you got to remember, people are seeing it on a phone.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
90% of viewership is a cell phone.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it anything bigger. And even like people talk about 4K and stuff, and it's not
Yeah.
necessary on YouTube because YouTube kills that quality anyways.
Have you got any statistics on the podcast channel yet?
A little bit, but nothing too crazy. And it's also on Spotify and iHeartRadio and stuff like that.
It's still YouTube the biggest.
Yeah, YouTube's the biggest platform for it, but YouTube is also the best platform. So
Yeah. Can you do it to where they? Because I know there's YouTube. Like if you pull up a music video, or on YouTube, you can like watch it on YouTube Music, where it doesn't stream the video portion of it. Do they do that with podcasts too?
I haven't tried to do that. I never use YouTube Music. I could definitely look into that. I know you can close it, like you can close your YouTube app and continue to listen.
if you pay for it.
Yes.
That's with YouTube Premium.
Paying for YouTube is great.
Yes, I haven't seen an ad in so long. You go to somebody else's house and you try to show them something. What is this? What is this ad?
You're watching an ad? I know. I've been paying for YouTube Premium a long time. I wish they would sponsor my videos because I shout that out a lot. It's the best service.
Yeah.
More worth it than Netflix or anything like that.
How does it? I know this it keeps going on and on, but
No,
how does
it's
it?
fine.
It's like now I'm interviewing you.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
second portion.
Yeah.
How is it? So if if I go to your YouTube channel and I don't see an ad or anything like that, you still get paid because I'm a
It's pretty
premium
much
member, right?
It's pretty much the same. Yeah,
Okay.
they don't use it to like hurt creators. That's how I've always seen it. Like they're not gonna come out with this service that hurts creators. And
Gotcha. Well, I mean, they have to be making a killing off of it because I mean, it's like $12 a month.
Yeah, it's a rev share.
So they
Distribute it. That 12.
they've
bucks
got to
a
make
month.
more money off of me than me clicking on the lifetime that I've watched YouTube on ads.
Well,
So
you're a guaranteed
12
payer
bucks,
at that
yeah.
point. You're not a mystery. Maybe they'll show you a couple ads.
Yep.
There's probably more people that will be paying a guaranteed $12 a month that maybe before wouldn't have watched $12 a month worth of ads.
Yep, that's what I was saying. Like, I've never clicked on an ad. Like,
Yeah, it's unlikely that. I always feel like it's unlikely that ads get clicked on. It's more likely that I do an ad read and it's better. Like if I
oh yeah,
like YouTube channels do reads.
Yeah, I think that's going to go away because it's like ads on TV now. You tune them out. Like you either wait for the skip or you just know and you tune it out. People are used to it now.
Yeah, the ad stuff is tough. You just have to work it into the videos. And that's why with car parts is really tough because most people watching videos aren't.
Car guys.
Not even that though. They're the chance that they buy the part that you're sponsored. Like yes, I could be sponsored an ECU and an engine harness. Yes, that may have a group of people to buy
That's
it.
very
but it's
niche though. Who's looking for an
super
ECU
niche.
that's watching your video?
If I do an ad for a mattress,
Yeah, Casper.
very broad range of people that will be buying a mattress.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone. So that's kind of it's kind of why you see little insight. That's why you see ads for security systems and energy drinks and stuff like that.
How many subs you need to get some energy drink sub?
It'd be great.
You're like 11 or 12 right now, right?
Yeah, it's like 12,000 right now.
Yeah.
So-
Speaking of Monster, I don't think they don't advertise.
They don't need it anymore. It's like Tesla.
They
They don't
sponsor.
advertise
They
either.
sponsor motorsports, but you'll never see a Monster ad.
You don't
like
see
Red Bull.
Tesla ads either.
You're
Tesla
right.
doesn't do any marketing.
You don't need to. It's
No.
like a household name by
Yeah.
itself.
Chevy has to try to get you to buy their cars because nobody wants them anymore.
Well, that and Jim, Bob, and Jane they're going to go to the Kia dealership and they're going to go to the Chevy dealership. They're not like passionate about their vehicle like car guys are, to where like I'll buy another Mustang no matter what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna go and, well, I didn't like the backup camera on this one. let's go get the Chevy.
Yeah, they go for the minor stuff, like
Yeah,
if
they
it
don't
doesn't
care what they
have
drive.
AirPlay,
They don't care what they drive. You know,
as long as it has a warranty.
whereas you're a car guy.
Like the guys that work at the Kia dealership that I know, like it's like a full replacement. Like, oh, like, you know, alternator bad, like drop the subframe, you put a whole new one in it. Like it's like full replacement on just all that shit, because it's all disposable. On these new cars, it's like mostly disposable. Did you see the new S650? I think they were talking about the Mustang with the dual throttle bodies and everything.
Yeah, I watched the review. It looked like a cool car, but the review or the reveal. Did you watch it live?
I saw some of it.
It's horrible.
It's hard to watch.
Whoever did that needs to get fired.
Do you think that they did dual throttle bodies to hurt tuners?
I have no idea. You know what?
I think that will make it more difficult to tune.
Here's my thinking. The amount, just talking Mustangs alone, the amount of them that are tuned is so minute. They probably, the amount of influence that thinking, oh, let's try to do this to try to curb them tuning or modifying this, probably doesn't even, they probably don't even talk about it. It may come up in passing because 99% of people who own a Mustang drive it A to B. If you think about it,
Yep.
The millions that are sold, I mean,
there's a huge percent that are rental cars. There's a huge percent that are six cylinders.
they'll lock the ECUs, but the ECUs are locked on, the cars that you don't want to tune.
Yeah.
It's the technology that they're coming out with, and it just trickles down to every platform.
Well, and then there's the Mach-E, which was really a curveball.
Yeah.
I mean, just making an electric Mustang SUV.
See, I'm a fan of anything. Like, I mean, look, from a Mustang to a Charger with a K-swap in it. Some people out there are just totally, whether it's to rile them up and everything, but like, I'm not against EVs. Like, do I think everyone can go and get one right now and plug it into the house? No, everything would burn up. Like, the infrastructure is not ready for it. But, I mean, you can...
It's weird that they use the Mustang name like that, though.
Yes.
It seems like there must have been something bureaucratic reason that had to happen, because why tarnish the name of your greatest sports car that you've ever made?
Yeah.
And make it a completely different vehicle.
Someone probably was dead set on it. There was probably a group of people that had PowerPoints on why not to use it, and someone just put their foot down and said, no, it's going to be a Mustang.
I wonder if it's something with by it being a Mustang, it makes the whole Mustang lineup more gas efficient, so they're able to have the whole spectrum almost. Then when you look at it as a whole, our Mustangs are efficient.
They do a little presentation. It's like the average Mustang MPG is this, and then there's a little asterisk. Like, what's that little asterisk? Includes Mach-E.
That's what I'm wondering, if it brings the whole average to a better point where they can come out with the new stuff. Because I think even Corvette's planning a similar thing.
Or they're just getting the population ready. It's a Mustang Mach-E. It's electric, kind of putting the word Mustang and electric into the same sentence before they come out with just a full-on electric sports car.
I've often thought about electric assisted, how cool that would be.
Yeah.
You're talking all-wheel drive. If your front engine was,
electric motor,
electric in the axles, and then you had driven in the rear by...
Supercars do it.
Yeah.
That's what I think the P1, the new P1, and the Porsche 98. Was it 918 or their new?
But for a drag and drive event, be pretty great.
Yeah.
You could just you could have your nitrous fed 900 cubic inch big block motor that you can never drive on the street.
Yeah.
And then somehow be pulling your car around with the electric motors in the front. Or the electric supercharger is a cool one too, where they just drive the crank off of. They just have a big cob belt.
F1 did that, right?
I think they did something similar.
They had two options. They could use it to charge the battery, or it was a supercharger and a...
I've seen one guy do it where he basically had a blower belt, and when they turned it on, it would kind of drive the crank to take some of the load off of it, and just it was supercharging the car like that, not putting air into the engine.
Oh, okay, kind of like
speeding up the crank.
Kind of like if you had, like we were talking about, like a viscous coupler or something, where like you spin it enough to take a load, alleviate some of the load off the crank.
Yeah, so like at low RPM, you basically make
Sounds
your
like something
rotating
Volvo
assembler.
would do. You know, Volvo's like always coming out with variable compression rods and variable.
Because in theory, at low RPM, it makes your rotating assembly much lighter.
Yeah.
Because it's taking all that low end load off of it.
You could rev really fast. You're basically helping it to sit there, rev like an F1 car, but it's like just a regular V8.
And GM did it too for a while, where they had the transmissions had like a electric magnetic deal in there that helps speed up the drum.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
That one sounds terrible. It was the hybrid Tahoes. That's how they work. The transmission is the electric driven part.
Damn.
Yeah.
So
They've tried some weird shit.
I know you're wanting to end this thing, but
No, you don't
when
have
we
to. I'm not in a rush.
I was over at a friend of mine's shop, and there was a new Dodge, and it had the e-torque. I thought it was like an economy diesel. You know, they put like the F-150 you could get with a diesel in it, but you pop the hood, and instead of an alternator, there's an electric motor that gets fed from a small battery bank on board. It's called e-torque or whatever.
Yep.
It's a little electric motor that assists the truck.
I think that's what I'm talking about. It
On a
pulls-
belt.
Yeah, it basically takes the power from the power that would be taken by all your accessory drive, because
Yeah.
everybody always talks about, oh my gosh, like
Yep.
you take your AC off and you pick up 5 horsepower. So it kind of saves your accessory drive in a way.
But you pop it up and it looks like it's like if you've ever looked at a car with the electric motors and stuff, it looks like it's really, really small. You got a couple thick-looking cables coming off to it, but it's like your alternator and
Yeah.
some sort of electric
They
motor.
put the orange cables there that
Yep.
the firefighters know to cut and whatnot.
Yeah, 'cause
you
it
ever
goes
see
to high
that under the
voltage.
hood where they have like directions
here,
for
yeah.
a fireman?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if there's a fire going on if they're going to be reading the directions, but that's always the argument, is like, you can't let them at the track because if they burn down, the track's not prepared to put them out.
Yeah, I mean, but what's it going to take? A front-end loader, pick the damn thing up. It's going to be totaled. Pick it up and put it somewhere and just let it burn itself out. I mean,
That's what I always thought. You just have like a hole on the side of the track, like a one car size hole, and you're just like, hey, just put it in there. And then you just like throw dirt on top of it.
Yeah, or like a little mound of dirt. Like, what's that mound for? Oh, that's the EV pile.
Yeah, you just
In
bury
case
it. I know they like put them underwater pretty much is how they put them out. That's one of their goals. That's one of their moves to put them out, is like fully submerged.
Yeah.
But that sounds scary also. None of it's great, but that's why they didn't let them run in Formula Drift in Long Beach. There was an electric drift car, and they wouldn't let it run near the city.
They act like it's a nuclear bomb. If it's going to
Right.
burn, it's going to sit there and burn. If a normal car burns, it's going to sit there and burn. But I mean, you just let it burn out. Like, the car's gone. Just
I've seen a lot of cars burn to the ground at the track. I've seen it happen. Like, sometimes you just can't get them out. And it happens. Like, I've been lucky enough to put my car out when it had a small fire. Some people don't get as lucky. Some people don't have fire suppression. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens in the next 5 years for EVs.
I know it's going to get expensive, hell. But being a car guy in general is expensive. It's like an addiction. I kind of sometimes wish I was into like knitting or something.
I actually
Like
have said that
competitive
before.
knitting. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some titanium, like, but still.
You're already modifying your other hobby that you made up in your head.
It can't be anywhere as expensive as cars.
Yeah, you should look into boats.
Well, yeah, okay.
You should get into boats next. That's one of the things. Once car guys, like, you know, they take a year off of racing, and it's like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm done racing, and then they're like into boat racing. They're like, take their time off of drag racing,
Spending the same amount of money, and you just got like your average boat.
or like a $80,000 side by side. It's kind of where it goes. It just goes into another thing. It doesn't just disappear. You don't just suddenly have your disposable income that you were spending.
Yeah.
You find where to put it. But all right, we can wrap it up there now. Huge thank you for coming on. We'll have to talk again someday, and yeah, it was a good one. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time.